What if I don't go to college? That's the question that we've been trying to answer. Reese Fullerton is going to tell us about his journey in the industry, how he took something that he cared about, a skill that he's good at, and turned that into a passion. Let's hear what he's got to say. Reese Fullerton from Canyon Marine Solutions. Tell us what you do here.
Canyon Marine Solutions started out as the distributor and tech rep for Thornton Bearings. Thornton Bearings is a company that, to keep it simple, they make a polymer material. And now what we do is we take that polymer material and we turn it into everything from, prop shaft bearings, rudder bearings, deck equipment, steering gear, any rotating equipment where you're normally using, say, a traditional rubber bronze back bearing or like a phenolic material and you're having failures. We bring this material in, it's self-lubricating polymer, doesn't require any grease, no oil, there's no maintenance to it, and we swap those out and make it to where we're, decreasing the downtime of equipment or making sure that ships aren't coming in the shipyard often to replace bearings.
So all these bearing surfaces, all rotating equipment has got to be supported in some manner. Those motors turn, they create a lot of friction, or in some cases there's friction plus they penetrate the hull of a ship or a boat, right? And that's what keeps the water out of the people tank. So there's a lot of stress on this. So it seems like it's a really simple thing, but it's not. And these surfaces exist all around us, right? It's our cars, it's the conveyor belt at the grocery store that carries our groceries up to the cashier. It's the escalators, the elevators that we ride. If it's turning, there's a bearing surface somewhere.
Right.
And this polymer is not a simple material.
It's not a simple material. It's a proprietary material, and we actually don't even know the complete makeup of the material. So like when we were talking before, like when I go up there to visit the manufacturer, I mean, it's, closed curtain, we don't see how it's made. We have a general idea of how it's made. We just don't know what's in it. So we don't know the complete, makeup, the ingredients list, if you will, of the material. But we know it works. We know it works very well, and we've got it in everything from rudder bearings for the Navy, shaft bearings and rudder bearings for the Coast Guard. We do the arresting gear on the aircraft carriers.
And the arresting gear is that cable and brake system that essentially yanks the airplanes out of the sky when they land on the deck of the aircraft.
That's right.
An awful lot of force, and those systems have to work, and they have to work every time.
That's right, exactly. And the way that we do it is basically, when somebody comes to us or if we go to them and meet to see, what their problems are, we will take drawings or kind of take the specs that they need for us to work off of. And the material you see behind us, it all comes in big, long, it's 40-inch long tube. We have all different sizes. When you look at it, it doesn't really look that exciting, but once we end up machining it and turning it to what it's going to end up being, it works out great. I mean, when we're dealing with tolerances from, plus or minus 5 thousandths down to plus or minus 3 thousandths of an inch. I mean, it's very, very, very tight tolerances, tight clearances.
There's no margin of error there. And these are very sophisticated, complex, and critical systems.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you get into this business?
So basically, I had worked for the previous distributor, and due to changes in their path, they were more like, I guess, industrial fluid sealing focused, if you will. I was, long story short, I was going to actually go work directly for Thornton, and that was looking like my path. And then I always wanted to start my own business, but it's always been, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? How do, what's this business going to be? And one day I just kind of said, hey, what if we become your new distributor? And so we worked through it with Thornton, and they were very happy to do it. And now we became the new distributor for them.
How old were you when you started Canyon Marine Solutions?
Oh, I was 32. Yeah, 32.
So at 32 years old, you go into business with simple but sophisticated systems and equipment. It's a pretty big leap at 32 years to 32 years of age to go into that business.
Oh yeah, it was. It was definitely stressful, for sure. But I've grew up on the water, grew up around boats, and my 99% of my job path has always been in the marine industry. So just kind of made sense that way.
Tell me about that period of time from high school to when you started Canyon Marine Solutions. What were you doing in there?
In high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew that college wasn't the path that I was going to take, because I just, like most kids in high school, they don't know what they want to do. Most people don't figure it out for a while, or they change their job at 40 or 50 and find that they've got to where they wanted to be. So, but I always knew I wanted to be into boats in the marine industry. So when I got out of high school, I worked for a local boat builder. I was always into fishing and sport fishing boats, and wanted to get into that. So started working for them. I worked in the boatyard to start, doing everything from bottom painting to changing props and scraping barnacles, whatever needed to be done.
So you started out at some pretty entry-level stuff there, right? Scraping barnacles, and then painting, and changing out a prop. All really important stuff, but not a whole lot of real technical skill involved there.
No, not at all. It was a lot of sanding. A lot of sanding, and a lot of just, painting, a lot of fiberglass, just basically just rolling on fiberglass all day. I mean, it was very, very entry level stuff, not very technical at all. So.
And how long did you do that before you got the call up to start doing more complex work?
We were such a small team that, we were all kind of involved in different things. So even, the owner of the business who designs the boats and builds the boats, him and his kind of, lead guy, if you will, I mean, they were even doing painting and sanding and everything as well. But it was it was neat to see somebody, who's not only designed it, but also still have the passion to get in there and build it and do all of the work, even if it's the nitty gritty stuff, if you will. But it also gave me the opportunity to shadow them when they were doing more of the complex technical stuff. So it was pretty quick for me to get in and at least be able to kind of shadow them and see what they were doing and get an idea how things were being done.
It's kind of a unique feature being in the marine industry. There's still an awful lot of shops out there where it is kind of all hands on deck at some point.
Right.
Even we've talked with other people in a pipe shop, for example, where the owner still gets in there every now and then and drops a shield, and he's got to lay a bead.
Yeah, right.
So,
but that's right.
That can be a fun environment where you're not so disconnected from the person at the top to the person at the entry level job.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you a good insight into what they're thinking as far as like design or problem solving and different things like that, depending on the job. And then, then from there, economy, 2008, economy wasn't good, and wages were getting low, and people were, not really interested in buying a couple $1 million sport fishing boats. And that's when I went off my plan was to go get my captain's license. So I wanted to just go get my captain's license. I had the sea time. I wanted to be, charter fishing captain, or eventually, captain a yacht, something like that. And went to Mid-Atlantic Maritime and went in there to just, I took the class to get my 100-ton. I only had the sea time for my, I believe I had a 50-ton in the very beginning. And I was fortunate while I was there there was a lady there who, she kind of handled like career placement, career development, kind of that sort of, she's almost like the guidance counselor of the Maritime Academy, I guess, if you will. And she said, hey, why stop there? Why don't you go get your AB? You can go get your, your STCW. You can do all these, certifications and
all those skills. Able-bodied seaman is kind of the entry-level job if you're going to work on a commercial ship of any of any sort. You're handling the lines. You're operating basic equipment. You know how to operate safely, and that's part of what the STCW certificate is also, right? How to operate safely. Entry level for somebody who doesn't have that background or isn't familiar with those systems. And that school is located right here in Norfolk on the Virginia Beach line.
That's right.
And it's a great example of everything from entry level all the way up to unlimited master. And you talked about the 50 or the 100-ton license, and that basically says what size vessel you're able to operate.
Yeah, so she kind of put me down that path, and at the time, the only trick was when you lay everything out on what I needed, and then I saw the cost of it, I was like, I can't afford this. I mean, I was making, I don't know, I think I was maybe a little above minimum wage at the time, and so I got a little bit of money from some bonds that my granddad would give us every year for our birthday, and that helped pay for, I think, most of one class. Somebody had actually backed into my truck at the time. I had an old 1985 K5 Blazer, and somebody backed into the side of it. I took that insurance check to go fix the door and get a new paint job, and I put that in the pot to pay for school, and then still didn't have enough, so she had told me, you can apply for a grant, and you'll write an essay and you'll apply, and the state could help you pay for school if you basically, I think it was, I would agree to work for like a state or federal agency, company, whatever afterwards. So I did that and got the grant, and they paid for my school, and I came out with a AB and STCW and my 50-ton at the time, and then just started, filling out applications. I probably filled out 100 applications to anywhere and everywhere I could find.
Talk about the cost of those classes, which when you're making a minimum wage, that's not insignificant, but it's still a lot less than a college degree.
Oh yeah, significantly
far less.
Yeah.
Like maybe a semester worth of college, but if you're paying for it on your own, it's not nothing. But what you came out of there with, a captain's license that gives you the ability to operate a vessel and all the other requirements, and some of the experience now to go along with that, that's a pretty powerful package.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was less than, it was less than 10 grand. It might have been maybe $6,000 or $7,000, I think, at the time. I mean, yeah. So for me, it was a lot, but in the, when you're looking at it as a whole compared to going to college, I mean, yeah, it was way less. And then, and then when I fast forward to like when I started working on the ships, I mean, with my base salary and overtime, I mean, I think I was making 45, 50 grand a year. So
you scraped the money together, but didn't really have any debt at the end of this. But you go out and you're working, and you're not in the red, you're in the black right out the gate. Right out the gate.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Where'd you go to work at first?
So after I wasn't getting any responses at the time from all of the resumes I had put out there, and I ended up getting a few responses after I had started working. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm not, completely, I guess, unhirable at the time for those guys. But I got a call from NOAA, and NOAA had a...
NOAA's a government agency, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association?
Yep, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So they called and said, we've got a spot. It's an entry-level spot. I just remembered what their term was. It was a general vessel assistant is what it was. So it was very, like, low man on totem pole, general vessel assistant. And they said, are you interested? And I, absolutely. And after we got to talking a little bit, he had kind of told me, we have a lot of guys on deck. There's a lot of guys that want to be on deck and then work their way up to the bridge and drive the ship and do all that. But would you have any interest in going into the engineering side? And, I grew up around with my dad and, uncles and everything. They're all like very mechanical. So I said, yeah, getting into the engine room and turning wrenches and learning that sounds great. And the money was a little bit better, which I could say like now with knowing how engineers do, the money's definitely better. And then the schedule was better. It made it to where I could kind of pick and choose for the most part what ship I wanted to work on. So I started out on a ship in Mississippi, in Pascagoula on the Pisces. And I was very fortunate to start out on that ship because the chief was a younger guy and he had a couple other, somewhat younger guys as his engineers, and they were just very, very open and willing to just teach me anything I wanted to learn. It wasn't like well, don't get me wrong. The first couple weeks, it was go clean that up. That spilled, go clean that up. That needs to be painted. They're kind of seeing, hey, what's this kid all about? Does he want to learn? Does he want to be here? What are his skill sets?
Kind of had to prove yourself a little bit.
Had to prove myself a little bit.
You're the new guy on the team, and you got to show that you're willing to.
That's right. Exactly.
Put the reps in.
Exactly. And then from there, it just turned into, everything I would go up and ask. I want to learn to weld. So he would say, yeah, let's go. He'd fire everything up and he would teach me and just let me, on watch, he'd say, hey, after everything's done, you can come in here and just practice. Just sit here and practice on the welding table.
So on watch is that designated period, like the ship going to sea for weeks at a time. The ship operates 24 hours a day.
That's right.
So your watch is the period of time when you're actually at work, and the rest of the time is kind of your free time.
Exactly. Yeah, it
so
is.
In your free time, he said, come down here and I'll teach you some other stuff.
So the first thing I welded together was just a pull-up bar. I pulled some metal stock out of what we had in storage, and I made a pull-up bar so we could just do pull-ups in the like drill press room basically. And then I made a little powder coating booth. If I were to go back and see if this stuff's still hanging on the wall to this day on that ship, I'm going to be surprised. But made a powder coating.
Some of those welds a little ugly.
Oh yeah, it was bubble gum, just it was terrible. But I did learn a lot. Now, if you asked me to weld today, I forgot a lot of it too. But it was great to be able to have somebody that was willing to teach. He saw that I was willing to learn. They were willing to teach, and then. We had a project on the main engines where I think it was valve lash and injectors needed to be seated, and he said, here you go, here's the tools, here's the manual. You guys have at it, figure it out. I'm here to answer questions, and we got it done. Got an award from the ship because we, saved X amount of dollars, so a contractor didn't have to come in and do it, and so it was great to have that as my first ship that I ever worked on, and I actually rotated on and off that one for almost 2 years because they just they literally would call me or text me when they got back and say, hey, when are you off leave? And then they'd put in the paperwork for me to come back. So they just kept bringing me back.
So you built your reputation, and now you're the kind of person they want to work with. They're coming to you saying, come back to us.
Right. Exactly.
That's a great place to be, and at a pretty young age.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. I had worked, I'd been Pascagoula, I worked out of Texas, I worked out of Portland, Maine, Rhode Island, a ship here out of Virginia, and then Hawaii. And I worked twice in Hawaii, right there at Pearl Harbor, Ford Island. And that was great. The crew was amazing. There was a chief on that boat where in the beginning we didn't, I still actually keep in touch with him today. In the beginning we didn't click at all. He just had a teaching style that I just could not wrap my head around. But it was funny because eventually it was more my fault than his. I think I had to swallow my pride a little bit and then understand how to work with his methods. And when I did, that was another guy that I learned an unreal amount from. But that ship was great because, I love to be in the water, fishing, surfing, everything. So, On the weekends, if we were in port, you're working like a regular schedule. You're just Monday through Friday, you're getting off at 5. Weekends, I'm heading to the North Shore and I'm going surfing. And then the first trip we did was we were taking scientists to go do studies on the endangered monk seals. So we were taking them out to all of these Northwest Hawaiian islands and atolls and dropping them off at these camps, basically, so they can stay there for a certain amount of weeks and just do research on monk seals. And we pulled into port on Midway Island and got to ride beach cruisers around Midway Island, and that was amazing because there's still a lot of stuff there from back during World War II, and it was like just
pretty great experiences to get on a ship, sail halfway around the world, and
oh yeah,
get to see some things that maybe people read about in a history book, but you actually get to live it, see it, touch it.
Oh yeah, it was great. And then with fishing, we would get into the areas where we were allowed to fish, and we would hand line fish. So some guys would have fishing rod and reel and try to pull it off the back of the ship, but we actually had milk crates filled with coiled up paracord. And on that paracord, we put a bungee cord as a shock absorber, and then like a fishing lure on the end of it. And we'd throw that thing off the back and troll it behind the ship and catch, tuna and wahoo and mahi, just hand line them in and eat well.
Some of the best meals is the stuff you catch yourself.
Oh yeah, it was great. There was I'll never forget her. She's I can't remember if she was our head chef, her assistant. Her name was Clementine. I believe she was from Samoa, and man, we would bring her this fish, and she would make unreal like sashimi and everything. It was great. And then one of the lead guys on deck, he actually grew up in South Carolina, but in high school he worked at a sushi restaurant. So just watching him with a knife just do his thing and make just these great platters of sashimi and sushi and everything. We ate great. The food was already good, but then being able to take all that and eat that's your meal for the night. It was fantastic. So
you're from the local area. Mm-hmm. You made the decision not to go to college. Mm-hmm. How did that go in conversation with your parents, with your other teachers, your guidance counselor? Did you get pushback, support?
I got definitely support. My parents were, if I would have had something that I wanted to go to college for, they were definitely supportive of me going to college. But it was, they kind of left it up to me and my decision, to say, if you don't have anything you want to go to college for, then, what are you going to go to college for, right? So they were very supportive of my decision for sure. And I had, my dad and uncles and family members that were also the same way. They would just say, if you've got something that you're interested in and college is going to be your path, then great, that makes sense. But if you're just going to go to college just because you feel like that's just what people do, but you're not going for any particular skill set, I guess, then there's a lot out there where you just don't need to go to college. So they were supportive for sure. And then as far as teachers and guidance counselors, I didn't have too many conversations with guidance counselors really about it. I had teachers that would always kind of, get on me a little bit and say, you've got so much potential and you're a smart guy, you just need to, pay more attention in class. And I just couldn't do it. I was sitting there thinking, I knew that if I went to college, there was the one school that always stuck in my head was UNC, and I'm like, well, I could do UNC, Wilmington, and then I could go surfing, right? And then, but what am I gonna go to school for? And I do remember going on the website at one point, and I vaguely remember having a conversation of going to college for public relations or something because I was good at public speaking. It was making this excuse to find this avenue, and it just didn't make any sense. It was, so.
And even more so now, it's an expensive way to spend a number of years trying to figure out what you want to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would have, now thinking back, I would have felt bad. My parents having to scrape together whatever they could so I can go to, college for public relations or something, and then I end up doing what I'm doing now. They'd be like, all right, well, we're proud of you, but man, you probably could have avoided that college route.
Let's talk about some of that stuff you're doing now, right? Started off in the conversation talking about these thwart-on bearings, which are simple but sophisticated items made out of complex polymers that are, being developed in the secret lab, right? I mean, this is it because it's proprietary and it's not basic wood and rubber and cork and metal that it used to be anymore. This is sophisticated chemistry, really close tolerances.
Right.
You've done some work here in this shop that, as you described it to me before, we both agreed a lot of that is engineering level work, like the kind of things a mechanical engineer and a naval architect would be designing, these through hull fittings. But you do a lot of that work here yourself.
Right.
How did that come to be? And then I want to ask you, would you ever think about going back to college to where do you get the knowledge to do the things you're doing?
The way all of that came about was really, I mean, it really just comes from like my passion for the industry and what we're doing, like the solutions that we're trying to provide, problems we're trying to solve. And I had some very well-known, well-respected people in the sport fishing industry reach out and ask, can you design a dripless shaft seal? Can you design a bronze back bearing with your polymer material in it? And I just, I loved the challenge of it. I loved the industry, and I had a lot of respect for the people that were asking me to see if I can do it. So yeah, I said, let's give it a shot. And I literally just bought everything on the market. I mean, everything I could find. I'd spent weeks just Googling, dripless shaft seals. And if anybody had one, I bought it, and I took it back here and sat here at this workbench for probably, 8 months in between our normal like day-to-day operations. And I took everything off of it that I didn't think would work well, kept the stuff on there that I think would, and then I would, reach out to those guys and say, hey, I've got this prototype. This is how it is. What do you think? They would give me some insight on changes that needed to be made. And it's just, it's turned into what it is now. And it's, I didn't reinvent the wheel by any means. I took things that, just slight changes that needed to be made that made a huge difference. And that's what we did, so.
I love that part of the story when somebody tells me about how they innovate something, because a lot of people think innovation is, I started with a blank sheet of paper and I came up with a great idea. And it's really not.
Right.
Like, you took some other through hull fittings, took the things you liked about each one, discarded things you didn't, and then built a brand new one with the best features. Not that you took anybody's property, but you took those features and figured out how to combine different elements together in that.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also just, I tell all of my customers, feedback, good and bad. Give me feedback. Call me on the phone, yell at me for 20 minutes and tell me how much this is garbage so I can go back to the drawing board and fix it. Like this, like the name of the company's Canyon Marine Solutions. Like it would just be like arrogant of us to just come up with a solution and say, here you go, promise you it works because I said so, or because the math equation over here says so, but you're telling me, sorry, it doesn't. Like, give me feedback, and then we'll just constantly improve and evolve and see what we can do. And that's been great, because so far everything's been fantastic. And then we've got a couple little tweaks and things that we find that we're gonna make better, but it's just all about just figuring it out how to do it and then make it better. And all that comes from just the excitement and passion that I have and we have of the industry that we're working in.
Do you have a mechanical engineer or a naval architect that you work with?
No.
You've never had to call one for any of these things that you've done?
No, I've got some people that I could call if I really ran into a question that ran into an issue, right, that was just really stumping me. But a lot of the information I get comes from, so I bought the book Applied Naval Architecture, which is like one of the ones that they were reading forever. If you went to go to Naval Architect School, bought that off of Amazon. I'll read through that sometimes. I've got another one from SNAME, the Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers. They've got all these great, education like books that, I've got the one on, propulsion, shafting, bearing lubrication, things like that. So if I run into something that I just can't figure out through my experience, and I'll flip through that and see what I can find. But no, we don't have a naval architect or an engineer or anybody on payroll. It's probably going to scare some people when they hear this, but no, it really just comes from just hands-on experience.
The way to learn and the different avenues and the access to information has never been greater.
Right.
That maybe you don't need 4 years, but now that you can buy the textbook that they're using in those classes and just study at the point of that you need on that one element, get smart on it, and then iterate your product.
Yeah. And
your products are pretty important. Again, it's the water on the outside, people tank on the inside, and they should not mix.
No, they shouldn't.
So you're not just making this up, and it's not casual. You'll know right away if your product doesn't work.
Oh yeah, we'll know right away. And I mean, and we're doing so for our product, the one that I had designed, I mean, these are going on high speed, multi-million-dollar sport fishing boats. Yeah, and we've done some high level stuff. I mean, Michael Jordan just had a new boat built, and he's got my seals and bearings and rudder bearings on it.
And not for the first time.
No.
So he's a repeat customer.
Yeah, so so this boat, the boat builder that built his boat is a repeat customer. We do all of his boats. This is the first time Michael Jordan has moved to that builder, and this is the first time I've had his boat. So
does he know you're talking about him today?
Man, hey, let me know. Like, I'm gonna come see you, shake your hand, meet you at least, But no, he does not know. I haven't had the chance to meet him yet. But those are things that, it's rewarding across the board for sure. And there's people out there that I have so much respect for and excitement to be able to work with that unless you're in the industry, no one's ever gonna know who they are. But at least when I'm doom scrolling on my phone and I'm seeing my Instagram page filled with Michael Jordan's new boat, I can look at it and be like, I invented something myself on that boat. He's running my stuff. That's wild. It's crazy to think about.
Man, I don't even know if this is a valid question to ask now. First of all, how long have you been in business, and what do you see in the next 5 years? So
Canyon, we've been in business for 4 years. When we started this business, COVID, COVID was right there in the very beginning. So we've got essentially a whole year there where, you couldn't go to the shipyards and make visits for a while. You couldn't do, and you remember this, there was not a whole lot you could do for a good period there of time. And we were fortunate to where, the bearings that we make and that Thornton makes and that we sell they're mission critical. I mean, these ships have got to have them. So that kept us going and kept us afloat.
No pun intended.
Right, no pun intended. That's right. Yeah. So and I didn't, it was just me here for the longest time.
So you started out as a kind of a one-man shop doing this,
yes.
And you've grown now in the past 4 years to.
So yeah, we grew from a revenue standpoint. Just last year we grew 4 times over on revenue. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was a lot. Because there's also, with a lot of money coming in, there's a lot of money that needs to go out to get that business too. So you start dealing with numbers that you never thought you would deal with, you're like, this is stressful stuff.
But it's got to be fun. You're smiling, you're laughing about it.
It's a lot of fun. It really is. That's my whole, philosophy, I guess, on this business would be if just things were to just fail for whatever reason, if I could come out of here and just say, one, I did it, tried hard, worked hard, kept a good reputation, people liked working with us, they were happy with us. If I, basically coming out of it and saying I didn't hold anything back, we just went for it, went for the ride, like, hold on, let's see where this goes and where it's going to take us, then I'll be very happy. I don't think we're just constantly going up. I mean, we've got a lot of big contracts right now that are coming in. There's more and more business that's rolling in. I mean, all of our problems as a business right now they're growing pains. It's just trying to keep up with all of it. So as stressful as it is, it's, it could be the other way around. You could be like not having any business.
You're not sitting here looking for work.
No.
That's not your problem.
No, not at all. So it is. It's very exciting. And, I've got 2 little kids, and I've got a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. And, whether they go to college or don't go to college or join the family business or don't, they can at least see my path and see, what I worked for and built, and, get something out of that and be like, it's pretty awesome. They might not even like boats ever. Who knows what they're into, but they could just say, hey, what Dad did was pretty cool. So
I got a feeling your kids are going to like boats.
Probably, yeah.
Reese, that's great. Thanks so much for your time today. You've got a great story. You're obviously very proud of what you do. You're doing it really important and interesting work, and I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming. This is it's been fun. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. So it's been great.